Welcome back to our Simple Healthy Life podcast, where our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics that we find interesting. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about fear. I know it's a broad topic, but ultimately I want to address it as the topic that it is, a very broad topic that can trigger people just with a word. I want to get into what it means to reframe fear. I want to talk a little bit about how you can treat fear and your relationship with fear in the same way that you treat building muscle. And I want people to understand by the time they leave here or they leave this next 30 minutes or so that we all have fear. And it's not cliche. This isn't the fifth grade version of we all have fear. I want to really dive into the neuroscience of it and help people understand by the time we finish and maybe offer an opportunity to reflect on some things that they are fearful of. So I'm going to start with this broad statement for you. What are you afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I'm afraid that I can't provide value, the value that I hope to provide. And so that could be like the loss of something, right? The loss of whatever my capacities, physical or mental, right? So fearful of that. Fearful that, things around me just, will go too far, right? Too far out of my grasp. And I realistically know that none of those are within my control, but yet still a fear. Fearful that I'll be condemned to do things that I don't want to do forever.
Ooh, that's a good one. Me too.
Yeah. Well, fearful that I can't do the things that I would want to do. Just meaning that, like, if I want to help people, I'm barred from that. If I want to do jiu-jitsu, I'm barred from that, certainly fearful of inadequacy. I think that's a big one. I'm fearful of social judgment, and that one I think is very normal for people. Sure, that one was one very, very relevant and prominent in my life up until probably like late 20s, and now it's much, much better. Yeah, there's a lot of fears. I mean, I could go on. There's fears about all things. How about you?
Oh man, the reason I asked the question so broadly was because I was interested to see if off the top of your head, the majority of your fears were about the future, about things that were in or out of your control and about the future. And the reason I'm asking that is because I think that for the most of us, that's where most of our fears really live. We're afraid of something that we can't control in the future.
Yeah.
And it's almost disguised as something else. It's almost disguised as normalcy. These are normal thoughts, right? That's a normal thought to be fearful of, putting out a podcast and don't know if it's good. To be fearful of whether or not I'm good at my job. To be fearful of whether or not I can provide for my loved ones. But often these fears, they don't drive us forward. Ultimately, they hold us back. And I think that when we start to label them, start to identify them and put labels on them, we can start to say, okay, that's what it is. now let's make this decision to allow it to drive us forward. And until we do that, we won't. We'll just allow it either most of the time subconsciously to hold us back. I think I'm fearful of putting myself out there so I don't speak up in a meeting. I'm fearful of of rejection so I don't go for that job interview. I'm fearful of not being able to provide for my family, so I'm going to stay in this job that I hate because I don't know if it's really true that the next job will be better. But I do know, because I think that if I quit this job, I won't be able to provide for my family in the future. Right? These are all common fears.
How about the fear of being seen?
Huge. Absolutely huge. Ironic too, right? Because everybody wants to be heard.
Yeah.
Right? You're in a relationship, you want to be heard. You want the other person to know how you feel. You want them to, whether it's good or bad, right? You want the loved ones to know that you love them, and you want the people you're angry at to know why you're angry at them. But you don't want to be seen. Right? You don't want to be the person that steps up in the meeting and has everybody leave the meeting and go, man, did you see that? See what Mike did in there? Because it's a fear. And a lot of that comes from being young, right? Making mistakes and being seen while making mistakes, and that feeling of being judged for the mistakes that you made. Right? We don't want to be seen because we don't want to be judged. And the irony is, who ends up being our biggest judge? Who ends up being our biggest critic? We do. It's almost like, I know wasn't thinking about this, but like, people don't really think about you very often at all. Right? People that listen to this podcast, they put our podcast on, they might go, oh, you know what? I haven't listened to that podcast, so I'll put it on the podcast. Thank you for thinking of us. Yeah. Right? But like, if they didn't like it, 2 days from now, they're not like, man, let me tell 7 people how much I didn't enjoy Ryan and Mike's podcast this week. But we think it in our head. We're like, oh man, I'm afraid that wasn't good. I'm afraid that people will judge us on it. I'm afraid that if we don't do it better next time, we can't provide in the future. I'm afraid that the local access television will stop having us on. These are all fears.
Yeah. I can't think of one moment of a friend, their embarrassing moment. Like, I can't think of a friend's embarrassing moment. Like, I can't like literally generate that thought. I just don't have any of their embarrassing moments remembered, right? Yet we have all of ours kind of like in there, and we remember that time when I did this and that and this and that. And then, I try to think about, remember when MJ, it doesn't stick. I don't perceive that, right?
Yeah. But this is what fear does for us, right? This is what fear does to us. It's like the acronym, right? Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And what I'm trying to get at is, if we're going to choose it to be face everything and rise, then the first thing we have to do is label it, right? So when I say, like, what are you afraid of? Or like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Do I tell them the dark? Like, I don't know. Like, you almost have to say your answer and then go, okay, why? Right? For me, it comes down to like a lot of your answers were about the future, and we share them, by the way. It was a great list because I'm in alignment with most of those. And it becomes security. And it becomes change. I'm a fear of not feeling secure.
I'm fearful of bears.
Bears too.
Yeah.
Right? But so this is a different fear, right? These are the in the moment fears, which is an interesting one. Like, and I get the opportunity to watch people deal with that with the cold water.
Yeah.
Right? That's an in the moment fear.
Sure.
They're standing over there going, oh my God, the moment is here. Right? And they do get the opportunity right then to forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And watching people overcome that, it's proof. It's hard and fast proof. When you overcome that face everything and rise is It's such a great feeling.
Yeah. I work with, I don't even know if I share this with you. I don't even know if you know this about me. Obviously, I work with eating disorders, one of which is ARFID, and ARFID is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. ARFID usually presents in tandem with a lot of other mental health kind of diagnoses, autism, that kind of stuff, OCD. One of the, some of the work that we do though is exposure, right? And these folks have very limited food repertoire. Some of them, it's a bit of a spectrum, but some of them 5 foods, right? They can eat 5 foods. The rest are terrifying.
They'll
right?
allow themselves to eat 5 foods.
Yeah.
What are they usually? Just curious.
Like chicken nuggets. I say mac and cheese, but that's, there are some that are like, it's kind of like love and hate. Like chicken nuggets usually pretty good. Sometimes they're just hated because it's a meat product. Mac and cheese usually pretty good. Sometimes pasta's like a no-go. But they're simple. They're usually like simple foods that don't have a lot kind of going on, and they've done shows on this, which are like, is kind of bad, like TLC, like My Picky Eater, like it's pretty awful, to make money off these people because it's a true fear response from a different food, right? So imagine that, like you're faced with foods outside of your repertoire, which is already limited, and you have a true and honest fear response. And to some people that might sound silly, but you have silly fears too. And so nonetheless, the work that we do is exposure. And there's this system that I use, some of which is gathered, a lot of which is gathered from like research and data on the subject, some of which has like been developed just through time and what I see working. But I think this is something that could also be applied to any fearful situation. And basically what I have them do is I have them face their fears, right? And so what a typical session might look like in that case is they might say, well, maybe it's a good idea that I work on broccoli. I'm just going to use a random food. That one's kind of fearful to me. Let's do it. So then they come in and they have broccoli and they have it in front of them. And what I'll say is, tell me everything that you can observe about this. And we'll say it's green, it's this, it's that, it's fluffy on one side, it's got a stem, et cetera, et cetera. What they're doing there is they're just like, they're labeling their fears, they're perceiving the fears, they're really detailing it out. A lot of the time when we have fears, bears, right? For example, I'm fearful of bears. I don't look up things about bears. I don't imagine that there's a bear. Well, if I'm walking in the forest, I'll imagine that there's a bear, But I don't, I probably should. Like, should I buy a bear spray? Like, what's the...
Well, you certainly don't go, how many bears are attacking people in Massachusetts on a yearly basis?
I'll look up the stats. Yeah. But
probably get less than one.
But we're avoidant to our fears because it's hard, right? And so I have them list everything about it. Smell it, touch it, all that kind of stuff. And then I say, on a scale of 1 to 100, how distressing is this? And this is when they'll say, well, it's a 50 out of 100. 100 out of 100 being like the most fearful, distressing thing you can imagine, 1 being like nothing. It's 50 out of 100. Okay. Let's face it, right? And now what I'll say is, all right, let's test it out. Let's try it. And then I have a little bit of a system to get them in there. It's like a little bit of a mindfulness kind of thing. Like let's calm the body down. Let's breathe. Let's relax our muscles. Let's extend the exhale. Let's do all the things so that our body is not in the fear response, because they certainly will. They'll be sweaty. They'll be breathing heavy. Their muscles will be tense. So I say, let's reset. Let's go through the body. And then I say, all right, let's try it. And, they, especially at first, they're like really hesitant a lot of time, as you could imagine. But then they do it and they taste it. And it doesn't matter what the experience is like, honestly. I just want to know I want to know what their sensory experience is like. I don't want to know their subjective experience because that's fabricated by the mind. I just want to know, what is the objective reality? And I say, well, it tastes fresh and it's crunchy and it's this and that. Okay. Now tell me the rating on the scale of this food. 99 out of 100 times, it's much reduced. If it starts at a 50, then it ends at a 25. And through the repeat process of them doing that, they start to believe, truly believe, like believe in their deepest of souls that, okay, my mind makes this fear out to be greater than what it actually is. And that then they start to develop courage.
Yeah.
And they get so much better with it.
Well done. Yeah, that's awesome. We can use this technique for so many of our fears. It's harder to use them with the ones that are in the future, right? But it can be done. And you said a lot of things right there. I hope we can unbox a couple of them. The last thing you said is 99% of the time it helps, and 100% of the time it dissipates the fear. That's not the word you use, but it brings the fear response down.
Right.
So what people should understand is you can do this you can work with your own fear response on any topic by addressing even the smallest topic, right? So like you kind of said it, like you started with broccoli as an example, right? That's you likely to be one that's only like a 50 out of 100. Like you probably wouldn't say, like you probably wouldn't put like, I don't know, I'm just making something up, right? You wouldn't put like raw oysters in front of somebody and be like, that's 100 out of 100. Like, yeah, okay, let's start it like, let's start with broccoli, right? Let's
start with a reasonable approach.
Yeah. So you can work with your own fear response by starting with a reasonable approach, right? First, you got to label it though, right? Which you did. And it even had a cool acronym, right? In this scenario. But for many people, it doesn't have an acronym. It's like fear of being seen. Okay, why don't I speak up? Why don't I speak my mind with my significant other? They're always doing this thing that bothers me, but I don't say anything. Why? Right? And first and foremost, take out the fact that they're going to yell at you, right? That's not it's their response, right? But what's the response? What's your internal reason for not doing this, right? That's some fear. And what is that fear? Label it. We don't even have to address it yet. Let's go with an easier one, okay? I'm afraid of speaking up. So write it down and say, okay, where can I find in my life where I can speak up? Where can I interject? Where can I have my voice be heard in a safe environment? And you'll start to see that feeling, right? Because fear is not just the mind. Fear is the mind and the body. Anybody that's ever been super afraid will tell you it's the fear, the mind and the body. Start to feel that feeling dissipate. You know, you can. Let's just go into the neuroscience of it all just for a second for people, because I said I wanted to get into that. When you have a fear that comes up, whether it's an external input through your eyes, your ears, your skin, your nose, right? You smell fire, right? In a place you shouldn't smell fire, right? Or even a taste, like too hot, too spicy, oh my God. Or internal input, right? Fear of the future, fear of not being good enough, fear of these things. Your amygdala fires. It's just a little like walnut size part of your brain, right in the middle of your brain. Ironic that it's in the middle of your brain. We don't have to get into that now, but it fires. It goes off, right? And it goes off in an extreme fashion if you're not used to it. That's why little kids, when they're afraid, you see them just freak out, right? As we get older and we deal with more things that we've been afraid of, it goes off a little less. And it immediately brings down your prefrontal cortex. It says, we no longer want your higher level thinking abilities. We're not used. That's not what we're here for. We're going to go for bringing on hormones that allow us to run, dilating our eyes that allow us to see better, changing our respiratory system, allowing us to get more oxygen in case we need to run or fight for something. Moving the blood from your belly and your digestive tract out into your extremities for the same reason. Get out of there, right? Those are not responses that you are consciously aware of. Those are things that the body's doing first. Mm-hmm. When all of those things happen, You're in your fear response. You're in your sympathetic nervous system. It's going. And you know this because you start to feel your heart rate go up. You'll start to sweat. You'll start to change These are all normal responses that if you just being 100% honest with yourself, you're not in charge of.
They can be quite subtle too. I mean, they don't have to be the
Oh yeah.
It can just be like slight increases.
Slight increases for sure. Yeah. Like just sitting in the room, knowing you're going to get called on next.
Well,
How often, just think about back in the day when you were in the welcome circle. Hey, everybody, I'm Mike. Tell me something. We're going to go around and tell everybody your name and something that, they want to know about you. Did you feel your armpits start to sweat? Just a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I hated that.
You hated that, right? Right? And that was a fear response.
Yeah.
Fear of what?
Being perceived.
Being seen.
Yeah.
Being judged. Can you remember a single person that ever went through that exercise? Will you remember what they said?
No. Yeah.
No.
I don't remember anyone's fearful, embarrassing.
99% of the time, it was because you were thinking about what you were going to say. And the other 1% of the time was not memorable anyways, right? But we have this fear response. And we logically, if I grabbed you before this thing, it was like, hey, they're going to do the welcome circle. You're going to have to say 3 things about you. It's going to be okay. Your logical brain would go, yeah, of course it's going to be okay. What are you doing? You crazy? But as soon as you get in that situation,
Well, that's an important point, though, is it doesn't have to be logical to be, emotive. And so you can feel all the fear in the world and know that fear is non-existent in a lot of ways. Like, these people that I work with in terms of, the food stuff that I was telling you earlier, I mean, yeah, they know that it's just broccoli, right? And it, for the record, it doesn't help someone for you to be like, yeah, it's just broccoli. Like they, like that's just, bears don't really roam the woods. And, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. But the fear response, again, it's emotional. It doesn't respond to logic a lot of the time. It responds to experience.
But hold on, that's why, right? So remember, this is what we're talking about. This is why it doesn't respond to logic, because in the moment, your higher level thinking, the part of your brain that is responsible for your logic, is simply not working.
Right.
Like it's not a you problem.
Right.
Like it's an us problem. It's a collective problem. It's a human
condition,
problem.
yeah.
So what happens is we go, why can't I just logic my way out of this fear? Well, you can't. And then we feel less than. We feel not good enough. We feel, well, Mike could have logicked his way out of this fear. No, I can't. Right? And that's the fear response. And you hit it best. Like, that's what I want people to understand. Like, so what can you do to reframe your fear response when your logical brain isn't working? Right? There's what we can do prior to the fear response, right? Like, hey, Rye, we're gonna go for camping in the woods for the night, right? Well, we can do things before we get to this spot where we're afraid that the bear is going to come in, right? And then we can do things in the moment. And the bear example is a tough example because ultimately,
Yeah, you're kind of.
there's no amount of breathing that's going to help you from the bear, right?
Thanks.
But when there is no bear and you're just perceiving that the bear could be out there, then we can certainly work on that, right? So prior to the fear response, right? You know the broccoli episode's coming up. You know the big meeting's coming up. You know the welcome circle's coming up. We can do things. We can work on overcoming smaller fears. It was Eleanor Roosevelt said it best. Do something that scares you every day. Something little that scares you. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? That's going to mitigate your fear responses in the future. It's going to allow your amygdala to get used to, just like a muscle, to get used to going off, and then you deal with it, and then it comes down. It's going to make that a lot easier for you. You brought up Alex Honnold in the past, right? You know, he's up there climbing rock faces with no ropes, right? He's already broken through all of this, and maybe that's, who am I to say if that's good or bad, right? But it's definitely dysregulated to your word. You can talk to people about your fear. You can label your fear. You can journal about your fear. You can address your fear. You can face your fear. and recognize that it's okay to have it. And then in the moment, there's one major thing that you can do, and you do it with your broccoli example. You can understand that when you're having a fear response, the body's involved. And the way to respond to your body's response is to breathe slowly through your nose with a long exhale. And the thing I try to tell people is through evolution, our body has evolved to the point where when you have the ability to take an extended exhale, your body will start to believe it's safe. Okay, and I think that's super important. And it's tough to say it this way because people have to like break it down, almost write it out. Like when you have the ability to take an extended exhale, your body will believe it's safe. And that's taking your amygdala's response, taking that third thing, the mind, body, and whatever we are, taking control and saying, I know I can't logic my way out of this, but as long as I start to breathe slow and calm myself, then my amygdala was slow, my prefrontal cortex will come back on, my higher level thinking will start to work again, and I can say, okay, maybe I am still afraid, but I'm not really afraid that bad. Or maybe actually I wasn't afraid or shouldn't have been afraid or whatever.
Well, I'm fearful, but I'm not paralyzed. And that's that's where a lot of people run into problems, even, in every fear kind of example is that you're going to feel fear regardless. And fear is just a message, as all emotions are, right? Ooh, this feels a little unsafe. Okay, gotcha, heard. But the problem is the body kind of gets in the way. The body kind of shuts down, certain areas of the brain, and then you have like less logical decision making, and you feel icky, and it's just hard, right? It's just hard to navigate. And so the things that you can do when you're already having that response are exactly that. Like, extend the exhale. Keep the body limber in some sense because it tightens up. So relax your muscles, just breathe. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Over time, you can certainly decondition a fear response. And, that's really important. You can build courage, right? We can strengthen them. We know that we can strengthen emotions, but we only really talk about like strengthening fear and like anxiety is like, oh, I got an anxiety rabbit hole and I just kept going. And anxiety was building and building and building over a certain subject. But we don't often think about, well, if I practice courage, maybe that neural circuitry will get stronger and courage will be more prominent in our day. Or if I practice love or care or respect or whatever these other feelings are, I mean, we certainly can.
No maybe about it. We certainly can. You said, it does work that way. Practice self-love, you'll have more self-love.
Yeah.
Practice courage, you'll have more courage. It's almost ironic to me too that the only examples of courage we're like faced with when we were little is like these grandiose things, right? Like jumping off a bridge or skydiving. Like you must be really courageous, to face that fear. Like that's a fear, of course, right? Jumping out of an airplane is a fear, but you don't have to start there. But when you do, like because I have been skydiving, and when you do and you faced a fear like that and you came out okay on the other side, you can teach yourself, whoa, okay, that was a fear. I faced it and we did it.
And there's some universality to that. You build up courage in one area. It certainly helps you just possess the courage skill, call it, right? You get a point added to the courage ability tree, you really retain that. And even from a young age, though, we do learn fear responses, right? The classic example is being afraid of the dark, right? And so, your kid, lights are out. What's creeping up in the closet there? Oh, what's under the bed? And then you start thinking, well, that could be a monster. It could be pretty big. It could really want to eat me. It could really be causing some harm. And the more you stew on that, you don't know how to deal with fear. So it's just stewing and growing and thoughts are adding to that energy. And then it's like, what do I do? I'm going to go under the covers. I'm going to avoid this. I'm going to avoid facing my fear. So let me go under the covers. And all of a sudden the monster comes then either out of the closet or now it's out from under the bed. And now it's right outside those covers. Yeah. Right. And then And then the next moment, well, it's like, well, I'm just gonna lay face down, and then all of a sudden it's on top of you, and the only thing that actually works, and maybe as a child, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna scream and cry, and then hopefully like maybe parents come in and say, well, what was the matter? Well, there's a monster here, right? Okay, well then a good parent probably, I would presume, and say, well, let's face this fear together. Let's look under the bed. Oh, look, there's nothing there. Let's open the closet. Oh, look, is there anything there? No. Okay, great. And that's like the earliest probably, instance of courage, right? Oh, you're building courage with support, right? And this is another thing, is that you can face fears with the support of others, and that's still, it still counts, right? It still counts.
Yeah, for sure. And there's countless examples, and we all have countless examples. And what I hope the audience will do after listening to this is take some time to reflect. Right, we kind of gave a little bit of a roadmap, right? Label it. Why am I still working this job that I hate? Like, really, why am I doing it? What am I afraid of? Okay, label it. All right. Maybe I don't want to tackle that one yet. I'm not ready for that. Like, okay, I'm not telling you to quit your job and the universe will take care of it. It most likely will. But like, okay, so I'm afraid of not being able to provide. Okay, great. Awesome. Let's work on some things so we can understand, what does that really mean? Corey didn't want to go to a meeting recently with our business coach because she was afraid that they were going to tell her she wasn't doing it right.
Sure.
Her words, not mine. Okay. She still went. At the end of the meeting, she was doing most of the stuff right. And she said, well, that really wasn't that bad. If she had not gone to the meeting, 2 weeks would go by, we're supposed to have another meeting in 2 weeks, she wouldn't have went to that one. And then a month from now, she wouldn't have went to that one. And then whether she was doing it right or wrong would have actually been irrelevant. She wouldn't have known. She wouldn't have had any reinforcement, negative or positive. And then we wouldn't have a business coach. But she faced her fear with some support from me. No yelling.
Good.
None. Zero yelling.
Good.
No yelling. And she went. We had the meeting. It was very productive. And she faced a fear. Yeah. And that's one example. If you're the audience out there listening, you're going to have an example. You're going to have an example pop up in the middle of your head right now. And it's not going to be a bear, most likely. Right? It could be. Yeah. Call Ryan.
Yeah. Don't call me. I don't know.
You guys can go on a hike together.
I'll just die.
But this is it. This is what I wanted to discuss today. I wanted to just kind of bring some light to the fact that we all have it. It's a normal neurological, physiological response. It comes from evolution. It served us in the past to be fearful of things. It serves you still to be fearful of things. But labeling them, working through them, understanding at a deepest level, right? And Ryan's fear of bears is probably fear of death. I'm just going to say. Or fear of being mauled to death, right? Yeah. Your my fear of not being good enough is probably fear of security, feeling insecure.
Social judgment, rejection. There are levels to, there's some fears are very superficial, right? Oh, I'm fearful of losing my job. But, what does that actually mean, right?
So to spend some time, understand it. And if the thought of spending time thinking about and journaling around your fears is scary, well, that's okay. It's normal too. It's normal to be scared. So any last thoughts?
No, I think that's great. I think, I know that we have to face our fears. That's a big part of everything. It's a big part of growth in a lot of ways, is to expose yourself to that which you are afraid to look at, afraid to experience. And you will say, no, it's not. Well, that's because that's your fear talking.
It's so true.
Yeah, great.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening, guys. We appreciate all of our listeners. It's been growing like crazy. Like, share, and don't just like and share, but send it to somebody you find that might be It's a tough topic to just blanketly share this with someone that you think is afraid of stuff, right? Send it to somebody and let them know, hey, I was thinking about you today, and here's some stuff that maybe might help them. So
great. Thank you.